So the main focus of this, what I wrote about, was to look at how in the pressure cooker of the Arabian Peninsula in the time in the Jahiliyyah period, which is before the time of Muhammad, forged a society that valued women as a commodity and as a sacred member of the family, very much so, and that for a woman to go outside that when times are tough, to go through and to actually fight outside that, and to be someone who stands up for their family, shows a lot of bravery, and also shows that it's that societal times have changed. Shows pretty much change in that regard. So, what I looked at was two different key moments in Arab history. One was the Battle of the Camel, which consisted of the fight between Aisha, Abu Bakr, and the caliph at the time, the fourth caliph at the time. 1 second, what was his name? Let me just grab that real quick. Ali ibn Abi Talib. Now, to understand how, and then actually wait. Let me backtrack a little bit. And then the next thing I was going to look at was the actual, a modern example, which shows a stark contrast to what I first put out there for how this conflict went through, which the modern example was the Algerian Revolution and how women played a very key role in this revolution. So to begin with, I'd like to take a look at how we got to this point where Aisha actually roused an army to face Ali in Basra, which is, if you remember the Iraq War, it's still the same city in Iraq, in that same area. So it used to be Mesopotamia as well. So so the seeds were seen to be planted for this kind of outward, this outward incursion to try to stand up for the rights through well, actually, if you look at the example of Muhammad's first wife, Khadija, who was the first convert to Islam, and who was also the first one, who was one of his strongest supporters, and because of her strong influence, Muhammad spoke and preached that women should go outside the home to preach the faith as well, which is a stark contrast to what the idea before was to keep the women inside the home, to keep them very protected. So because of this little seed that was grown, Aisha, who was the first wife, or the youngest wife of Muhammad, whose father, 1 second, Abdullah, Abu Bakr, was the first caliphate, was very integral in the early part of the early Islamic state. And after the third caliph died of suspicious causes, she accused Ali ibn Abi Talib of someone in his camp perpetrated an assassination attempt to kill him. So she raised an army together to confront him about this, which turned out to be a very long and bloody conflict in and around the Basra area. Some estimates are saying that as close to 10,000 people died in that fitna, which is a term that means civil war, or which was the first of them. Because of this nature, and because of the fact that Aisha was such a prominent figure as the head of the army for the people who were fighting against the fourth caliph, she ended up, the war became an unsuccessful movement, and it also set back women because of the fact that her example was seen as something that was negative because it was because of how unsuccessful it became. So as time passed, this example of Aisha being strong but also of not being successful was a strong thing to tell women that to not participate in the very prominent feature of going out and defending one's family, which is a key feature in Arab culture. So as history went on, where the Arab culture spread through all the way to the edges of Iran, not Iran, sorry, to the edge of Iraq, and all the way over to Morocco and Andalusia, which is now known as Spain. The society kind of buried this battle of the camel, which in this fitna, which showed the first time where Muslims were fighting against each other, and you get into the point where you're getting towards the 19th century, where colonialism had gotten to its is starting to reach its real peak, and that time period, the European powers had decided that North Africa and the Middle East was a great place to try to divvy up, as it was near and it was a good place to extort resources from, essentially. So one of these key places was Algeria, which is right on the Mediterranean coast, and the actual places near the coast and not near the Sahara, or farther away from the Saharan desert, actually have some very good Mediterranean-style land for growing, citrus fruits and other sorts of Mediterranean vegetables and livestock raising and things like that. So the Arabs who lived there, who at that time lived a comfortable lifestyle based on pastoral herding and agriculture, that lived on tracts of land, living this traditional lifestyle, pretty much they made a pretty well a good existence for themselves until the French came in to take that over. So because of this, and as the Industrial Revolution went through, the people were sent to the cities to work, because the subsistence farming was not becoming a way of life that was viable anymore. And because of this, like much of any of the Industrial Revolution, education concentrated on one place, where people were learning while working, and ideas were getting exchanged. People were getting tired of being underneath French rule, and so when after World War II, as many colonial empires were breaking from the European powers, the Algerians rose up. Now, where women comes back into play with this is through the roles that they first started fighting in what's called the Maquis, which is the fighting force, which were the revolutionary fighters, which is a term that was used actually by the French during World War II. The women first started out in roles of support, where they would be nurses, cooks, spies, messengers, pretty much making sure that they could, while they're tending to the home duties, that they could go outside the home and finally make sure that all these things got done. That the support roles for the military, for the actual fighting, who would be the Moudjahidates, which is just the masculine for Moudjahidate, which is the female fighters.